Can you believe it? For a quarter of a century, Europe and South America hammered out this absolutely colossal trade deal. It was finally done, signed, sealed, and then, with one vote, the whole thing came crashing down. And the reason why? Well, it exposes this massive fault line running right through the heart of Europe. So picture this, it's January 21st, 2026. Tractors are literally clogging the streets of Strasbourg in protest. And inside the European Parliament, a single vote plunges one of the world's biggest trade agreements into total legal and political chaos. I mean, the aftermath was just a mix of pure celebration for some and absolute fury for others. And this quote right here from the EU's farm lobby, it just gets right to the heart of the conflict. For European farmers, this wasn't just about tariffs. This was about survival. They were arguing that the deal would just flood the market with cheaper food, stuff made to lower environmental and labor standards. It was, in their words, brutally unfair competition. This became their rallying cry. 10. That's it. Just 10 votes. After 25 years of negotiations involving dozens of countries, affecting over 700 million people, the fate of this entire deal came down to just 10 votes. A margin so razor-thin, it's almost hard to believe. This wasn't some landslide rejection. This was a sign of just how deeply divided everyone was. So here's the thing. This vote didn't actually kill the deal outright. What it did was 334 members of parliament voted to send the whole agreement to the European Court of Justice for a legal opinion. They were up against 324 who wanted to just move forward. And what this move does is it effectively puts the entire process on ice, probably for years. So, how on earth did we get here, right? What powerful forces collided to bring this mega deal, decades in the making, to the very brink of collapse? All right, let's break it all down. Okay, so first things first, you gotta understand the sheer scale of what is at stake here. This isn't just any old trade deal. No, the EU-Mercosur agreement was designed to create one of the largest free trade zones on the entire planet, linking two absolutely massive economic blocs. And the journey to get here, wow, it has been an epic one. It started way back in 1999. That's a full quarter century of diplomatic wrangling, technical talks, and huge political shifts. They finally had a breakthrough in 2019, got the deal formally signed in January 2026, and then, just 4 days later, Parliament slams on the brakes. We're talking about a market of over 700 million consumers. The deal would basically scrap almost all tariffs. Think about that. European exporters, making cars and machinery, were expected to save about 4 billion euros a year. And with trade between the two already topping 111 billion euros, well, the economic prize was absolutely enormous. Okay, so if the economic case was so strong, why did it fall apart? Well, it's because this deal became a battleground for two fundamentally different and completely clashing visions for the future of Europe. It's like a tug of war. On one side, you've got the geopolitical argument, this idea that in a world with rising American and Chinese protectionism, Europe needs this deal to secure supply chains and project its power on the global stage. But on the other side is the domestic vision, a fierce defense of European farmers, of high food standards, and this real fear that the deal sacrifices local people for these grand global ambitions. It's a huge tension. And the battle lines, they were clearly drawn. You had proponents, like the European Commission and big German industries, saying this was essential. And then this powerful coalition of opponents, led by French farmers and backed by governments in France, Poland, and Hungary, who saw it as a massive threat. But here's the crucial part. This division cut right through the parliament's biggest political groups. So while the party leadership was pushing for the deal, a lot of their members, facing intense pressure from voters back home, just broke ranks. And if you want to understand the geopolitical side of things, look no further than this quote from Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. For her and other supporters, this was all about strategic autonomy. It was a clear message that the EU would champion open trade while everyone else was busy building walls. But for the opponents, this was exactly the kind of globalist thinking that just ignores the reality for people on the ground. So this deep division created a political powder keg, right? And to stop the deal, its opponents needed a fuse to light. And they found one in a really controversial legal strategy that the European Commission itself was using. The whole strategy is known as agreement splitting. Basically, the Commission took this massive deal and just broke it in two. One piece, the interim trade agreement, covered only the trade stuff. And because trade is an exclusive competence of the EU, that part could theoretically be fast-tracked without every single national parliament having to say yes. Now, the opponents, they saw this, and they cried foul. They argued that splitting the agreement was a totally illegal tactic, that it was specifically designed to bypass the democratic will of countries like France, which, let's be honest, would have almost certainly vetoed the deal. They called it a power grab, a violation of EU treaties, and they convinced just enough of their colleagues that the whole move was so questionable that it had to be reviewed by the bloc's highest court. So, the deal is frozen. What does this all mean for the future of the agreement? And maybe more importantly, for the EU's role as a global trade power? Well, this is not a brief pause. Not at all. A typical review by the European Court of Justice takes about a year. But given how complex this is, most experts think this will take somewhere between 18 and 24 months. That's up to 2 years of just deep uncertainty. And the consequences of this are huge. The EU's credibility is really on the line now. I mean, why would other countries spend years negotiating if a deal can just be derailed at the very last second? Leaders in South America are losing patience and are already looking at other partners, like China. And now a whole new fight is brewing over whether the Commission might try to force the deal through provisionally, which, if they do, would trigger a full-blown institutional crisis. Ultimately, this whole saga leaves us with one critical question. The EU-Mercosur deal, it was a product of a different time, an era that really prized global integration. But in today's world, where domestic concerns, farmer protests, and national politics have so much power, can these massive continent-spanning trade agreements even survive anymore? The answer to that is going to shape global trade for decades to come.